Welcome back to another top tip series from Palm Equipment. My name's Jake and I'm going to be your coach for this episode. We're going to be talking today about the Boof stroke. It's that magical stroke that gets talked about generally in regards with waterfalls. However, I don't think that stroke should stop just there. It's an incredible stroke for keeping in contact with the nose of our kayak as we cross different dimensions of water. Be that from a height down to something lower, or crossing through like an eddy line, or going over a hole, or grinding up against the side of a rock. It's the stroke that allows us to put more pressure into the boat and keep it driving in the direction that we want. I think this stroke gets overcomplicated and it gets thought about as something that, is massively different to anything else we do in kayaking. It's really not. All it is an adapted forward stroke. There's lots of different techniques and ways of doing it, and I think depending on the situation, you'll do it differently to maybe another situation. But I want to cover the basics of it, and I want to kind of demystify that stroke today. For this episode, you're going to need a bench to sit on, or two chairs, one for your feet and one for your bum. And importantly, it needs to be a solid object that's raised off the ground, that's not going to wobble too much when you're sat on it. You're also going to need either a paddle or a pole. In this case, I've got a pole because the paddle doesn't fit into the studio. Sorry about that, so we'll make do with this. It'll be really useful for you if you've watched episodes 1 on posture and 2 on forward paddling. If you've not seen them, then I suggest you check them out before you go any further with this episode. So, first things first, you need to make sure that you've got yourself in that good posture. Make sure your sit bones are tucked underneath you and you've got a nice flat lower back and you're sat up high with your stomach muscles engaged. Once you've got that, what I want to talk about is the differences between this and the forward stroke. So the forward stroke before, where we pre-wound, bringing our elbow and our hand back and our sit bone with it, as we were engaging, we would be in that twisted motion, we'd be untwisting, and the paddle would go into the water like so, and this top hand would be pushing through, and the right elbow would now be making its recovery to bring the stroke out, setting us up for our next forward stroke. The Boof stroke starts to change by the fact that it's a longer stroke. What we're looking for here is a way of being able to stay in contact with the water for a much longer time. The last 10% of our Boof stroke is probably the most critical, and that's really what differentiates people who can hold a good Boof stroke and those who can't. It's whether you can keep the contact and the blade pressure with the water for those last few seconds to keep the nose of the kayak up or driving forwards. How we do that typically is the stroke tends to be elongated, and by that happening it needs to stay vertical, and we need to stay in contact with it. So rather than kind of coming to this position here where we'd be lifting the elbow up ready to finish the stroke, typically what I think happens is the top hand carries on pushing through and over so it crosses the center line of our kayak. So I think one of the best ways for finding pressure in the back end of the stroke is by allowing the top hand to cross through and over the center line of the kayak. You can see that the top hand stays high and it's now crossed over. And the further I kind of bring it over, it allows me to keep the paddle vertical for a long time and allows that twist of the body to happen. And when you're twisting with the body, you can be pushing on that foot on the same side. And it's this that really allows the connectivity of the stroke to hold the blade pressure right far back at the end of the stroke. And in that motion, that's going to be what keeps you propelling forwards and keeps the nose lifted over an obstacle. So, to go through it again, pre-wind. Paddle enters just like a normal forward stroke. We've reached for it, we've waited for it, we've got it at that golden moment where we're going to be able to influence the kayak. We're probably also sat on some edge, which is a little bit difficult to do in this scenario, but imagine that you're going to be sat on one bum cheek more than the other, or even better, try do that. Enter the paddle, top hand starts to push through, keeping the blade nice and vertical and the shaft nice and vertical, rotating through, holding the pressure, and then at the end of the stroke, the elbow comes up, and we've finished that nice strong position there that we can land and go into our next stroke. There's a lot of different ways for doing a Boof stroke. I think the older, more traditional way, there was a lot of talk about doing this sort of thrusting with the hips where you really pushed forwards with them. and the body would go back. I think as kayaking has progressed, a lot of people have moved away from that style, and they've gone more to sort of like really edging the boat and getting that paddle in deep and pushing through on the rotation to help drive the boat forwards. It's a lot to do with the feet as well as the paddle and how vertical the paddle is. And as with everything, you know, there's a lot of different ways that you can go about doing something. And with kayaking, it's such a dynamic sport. There's so many different situations we can find ourselves in. And I don't think there's one boof stroke that will do every single different type of scenario. You'll have to tweak it and change it and adopt the style. But hopefully there's a few fundamentals in this video that you'll be able to take with you, start to practice, and try them out the next time you get out on the water. So thanks for watching, and see you next time.